I'm Mary Ann Brownlow. Welcome to Hill Center. And in 2013, we launched this series, The Life of a Poet, which was an opportunity to invite a poet to really explore their work, their influences, their life over the course of an hour. And it's been an absolutely wonderful series, and we're honored this evening to have as our guest Marie Howe, who I know most of you know was the recipient of this year's Pulitzer Prize for Poetry. Our good friends and neighbors, East City Bookshop, which is just right out in the hall, have her books and Kyle's books for sale. Kyle Dargan, by the way, is our curator and host. He's a very well-known poet and editor. So I'm not going to say anything more. I'll just turn it over to the two of you.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, as always, Mary Ann. I want to say a little bit about how this particular event came to be, because I don't want you all to think that the Hill Center has the money to bring in Pulitzer Prize winners all the time. So what happened was last year, as we were curating the series, and this isn't for now, we're curating for last year, and we kept running in. I started trying to do my best to curate a diverse and sort of getting lots of different people, and then something kept happening, and it always went wrong. So I was getting really frustrated, and Mary Ann was reaching out to me again, like, we need to think about next year who we're going to invite. And at this point, I'm exasperated and I'm tired, and I'm like, to hell with it. If we're going to keep sort of striking out, I want to strike out with the people that I want, right? So it's like, go ask Marie Howe. I'm sure she's going to say no. And this was before the Pulitzer was announced. And then Mary Ann wrote me back and she's like, Mary, how'd agreed? And I was like, what the hell? And then I was so psyched, just to have you, because you were a poet who I've admired for so long. And then the news about the Pulitzer happened, and I was just like, something good had to happen this year. So this is that thing. So I want you all just to appreciate sort of the luck and good fortune of this moment, and to thank Marie Howe for coming down to be with us. We're blessed to have you.
Well, we have to also say Kyle and I have met before, and we both loved Richard McCann. And some of you may know Richard McCann here, who taught at American University for a very long time. And I probably would have done just about anything to come anywhere near Richard. I was really interested in coming here and seeing you and being here with you all. Thank you for coming. It's a strange, almost rainy night, and in a part of town I've never been in, and I'm delighted to be here. So thank you all for coming.
So I was wondering if we could start, we read a little bit, we talk a bit, and with Richard in mind, I think we want to invite, if we can, Richard into the space.
Let's do it.
And I was wondering if you could just read a prologue for us, which
Sure.
is I believe, the first piece.
Here he is.
In the new and selected.
So this is, okay. So here's the poem called Prologue. Can you all hear me? Okay. Can you all hear me back there? Over there? Over here? Just tell me if you can. Okay. Thank you. Prologue. In the middle of my life, just past the middle, walking along the street with our little dog Jack on a leash. Okay, just past the late middle. In what some might call early old age, on a street crowded with children and tourists, my father dead, my mother dead, my young husband gone from me and grown older, a father, a husband now to someone else. Jason dead, John dead, Jane and Stanley and Lucy and Billy and Tony, and now Richard dead. I came to the edge, and I did not know the way.
Thank you.
We're not even. There.
Better. So, my first question related to this poem, I've heard you talk elsewhere about how important your writing network and your group of writer friends, as you say, have been throughout your life, and in particular during the pandemic when we were all, very isolated.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I often tell, my students, that if you go to some place like a university to study creative writing, MFA program, if you don't leave with one person that you can stick with for your rest of your life, you may have wasted your money a bit. So
Yeah.
I'm curious to know, since you had this core group for so long, what do you think helped maintain that connection over time? Because it's difficult. It's not easy to keep a group together. So how do you think that happened for you?
There's the church. You told me.
Yeah.
You told me what happened. It's funny because none of these people did I meet in graduate school. A lot of us met through the Fine Arts Work Center in Provincetown. It's a great place at the very end of the world in Cape Cod. And my dear friend and teacher, Stanley Kunitz, is one of the founders of this place. But I wasn't with fellows. I mean, I met Richard at McDowell, A lot of us, you want to, how do I say this? You want to find somebody who cares as much about writing as you do, and who is rigorous and will not lie to you about your own work. That is hard to find. You can find friends, you can find pals, but to find someone who you can read something to and they'll say, yeah, there's something here, but get rid of the whole first stanza, or it doesn't feel finished yet, or something. That's hard to find. This group of us, I wish they were all show up right now and we could all talk. Just a bunch of kindred souls. Richard McCann, Tony Hoagland, Nick Flynn, Victoria Rydell, Donna Messini, and all the names I mentioned, and more. I don't know. I mean, I met different people in different ways, but then, I come from a big family, Kyle. There's 11 people in my family, and I think I'm always trying to make a family, too, wherever I go, and these people became my family. I didn't live a conventional life, and so I wanted and needed a family anyway. I had boyfriends, I married, I divorced, I adopted a child, but there was something about having this crew of fellow writers that has kept my life buoyant, really, for 30 years, 40 years. But during COVID, it was our friend Ricky Gordon, who is a composer, who said, let's have a writing group on Zoom. And Ricky ended up writing a book. Ricky composes operas, and he's like a big deal, really. I don't even like opera, but I love Ricky. And he decided to write a memoir called Sex, Drugs, and Opera, or something. And he wrote it throughout COVID in our writing group, and it's like a smash. He wrote this book that was so good, we would all just be like, what? And it's so outrageous. It's really outrageous. If you like opera, read it. And if you don't, read it. But anyway, we would meet every Friday and we would each read something or not, or listen. And it was a great way. And we all wrote stuff. I mean, we really got things done. I think it wouldn't have happened had we not. And we want to get it going again. But it's not as easy now. I mean, we had each other. I I mean, I didn't like anything about COVID. I didn't like anybody dying. I didn't like people being isolated from me. Our Richard was apart from us when he died. He was in a hospital. We couldn't get to him. But I loved knowing everybody was home in a way. I mean, in that we weren't moving all about. We were close. We really were more in touch during COVID than we are, not quite, but than we sometimes are during the year when we're all teaching and traveling. And so it's important. It's important to find readers for your writing and to be a reader. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there was a strange way. There are people I know who were oddly, their most regulated selves during the pandemic because they weren't slaves to a schedule that had them all over the place.
Well, I think it changed the world. People don't go to work anymore. People stay home.
No,
And
the CEOs are fighting that.
Mhm.
But so jump around a bit to this idea of, a big family. You can look at a new and selected as sort of a big family of poems that you've assembled. And I know that you said you had some anxiety around doing this, sort of bringing all that old work back. It is a vulnerable thing. And I know one of the things that you said is that, with just your writing, even the time between books, that it takes time because you have to get to a point where you feel like, there's something there in the poem that it's meaningful. And I'm wondering, for yourself, right? What is that metric? Like, it's probably not consistent, but there's something usually, when you can say to yourself, like, all right, this poem, has enough weight to stay, as opposed to being something that's going to float away into the ether of all the things that we've written.
The two things there's two things come to mind. We're talking about writing and finally deciding whether a poem is going to stay with you, and then there's putting together this book. This book was agony to put together. I didn't want to do it. I was like, I didn't want to reread the books. I didn't want to. It was very difficult. I don't look back like that, really. And so, and my editor kept saying, let's make a really slim book. I'm like, great, fine. And so I was just like, choo, 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 choo. And my friends again, significantly my friend Victoria Radell and Donna Massini, they're like, how's it going? I'm like, it's okay. It's really short. They're like, what do you mean it's really short? I'm like, well, and they're like, is this in it? I'm like, no. And they're like, why not? I'm like, because I don't know. And they're like, well, is this in it? No. I'm like, why? I'm like, I don't know. Finally, Victoria's like, I'm coming over. And she sat on my couch with me. And she's like, well, you got to put this in, and you got to put this in, and you got. I'm like, really? And she goes, yeah, you got to. Come on, Marie. And again, it's like, I'm trying to think of a good analogy. And I can't think of one. Nothing like it. I didn't want to look at it. That's all I can say. I didn't want to look at the whole thing. It's not that I'm ashamed of it. It's not that I'm sorry. It's that it's so done and it's in the past. And I'm not somebody who really spends a lot of time looking at the past. I mean, in therapy, yes, but not in. I don't know. It was hard. You can see how inarticulate I am about this. It was harder than I thought it would be. I don't know how people do it. And I couldn't have done it without my friends. So it got done.
For the other part, like, how do you know in a poem?
Well, I say this a lot, but when I'm writing, and often I go through periods of not writing at all. I can't write. There's nothing happening. For me, writing also is a portal opening so that something else can write through me. And oftentimes I'm too busy teaching, too tired, too something, and it's just not happening. But when it does begin to happen, I write a lot of stuff and I throw a lot of stuff out. And I can know pretty quickly whether or not it's just me writing or whether something's trying to. I don't think I have anything to say, is what I'm trying to say. I think a poem has something to say. And it will use my stuff, my life, to say it. But it's not about me having something to say. So oftentimes I'll write, and it's just me talking. That's not a poem. So, but who can figure out? I couldn't tell you how I know this. That's when my friends come in again. I mean, way back when, it was my brother John, you know, who died in 1989. He was 11 years younger than I would call him up if I would write a poem. I would write, I'm not kidding, 30 or 40 drafts. And I would think, okay, this is as done as it's going to get. And I would call up John and I would say, can you listen? And he's like, yes. And I would read it to him. And he would either say yes, or he would say, didn't happen that time. And I would say, really? He goes, no, you know this already. You wrote what you knew. I'm like, damn, you're right. Okay, thank you, honey, bye. And then back. So it was hard to find somebody who could say, this isn't working. My daughter actually can. It's surprising. She's good. She's really good. She's brutal, and I love that. It's really hard to find someone who will tell you the truth. I wrote this poem called The Singularity for this event. Does anybody here read the Maria Popova newsletter? So Maria does this thing called the Universe in Verse, where she puts scientists and writers together, and it's a beautiful evening. And I was trying to write this poem, and I thought, I don't think I can do this. But then something began to happen, and I had some drafts, and I went into my girl, and she was like up in her loft bed, and this tiny apartment's about as big as this rug, and I said, can you listen to something? She said, sure. And I read it to her, and she said, it's a real poem, but the middle is so boring. Take out everything from this line to that line. And she knew that after one reading. And I went, okay, well, tell me again. She goes, that line to this line. I'm like, okay, boom. She goes, now read it again. I read it again. I'm like, damn, you're right. And she goes, right? I'm like, yes, thanks, honey. I mean, that's how writers work. We don't ever do anything alone, not really. Do you think so, Kyle? I mean, we work alone, but for me, I need people to say, to help, you know? Little things even, tiny things. My friend Lucy Brock-Broido, who was a very different writer than me, when I wrote the poem, What the Living Do, a poem that became really important to me, I read it to her, and she said, this is amazing. It's really a real poem, but there's 2 words you have to change. And she told me what they were, and she was right. So I like that. I'm comfortable with that.
So since you mentioned it, although I'm not going to ask you to read it because I imagine you read it very often, but, you know, that poem, What the Living Do, it's lived multiple lives, right? Because I know you initially wrote it in the midst of the AIDS pandemic.
Yeah, well, Johnny was dead, but the pandemic was raging on, yeah.
Right, and since then, you know, we've had wars and famines and pandemics, and I think each of those things activate that poem in a new way.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, like, what do you hear from people about sort of like the current life of that poem, and how it's speaking to people in these times?
Well, each of us has lost somebody we could not live without, probably, right, by this time. And my brother was such a close friend to me. He was like a soulmate. And when he died at 28 years old after living with the AIDS virus, and he was a kind of spiritual teacher to me. He would say, shh, no, don't. He would be laughing at me if I said that, but it's true. And I was trying to write a whole bunch of poems that day. I was working on this one, and do you do that? Do you work on a couple of things at a? Oh, you write fiction. Yeah, you write stories now. Lucky man. But so I'd be like working on 2 or 3 things. This is back when I smoked too. It was really easy to stay at the desk when I smoked, right? Oh man, it was so good. But I would smoke like a pack of cigarettes by noon. I'd be like, ugh, sick. But I could sit there. It's hard to sit at a desk all day trying to make something. A lot of people here know that. But so I was trying to work on a bunch of different things, and finally it's like none of them were working. They're all gone. I forgot them completely, and I pushed it aside, and I decided just to write to my dead brother, because we wrote letters every week. And I wrote him just the way I always did, which is to say what was happening. And Johnny, the kitchen sink has been clogged for days. Some utensil probably fell down there. And the Drano won't work, but smells dangerous. And see, I can't remember it. Now I do want to read it, but I don't know where it is. Where is it? Just to show you that it's very similar to the way I used to write letters to him. Yeah, I don't know this book yet. Thank you. So again, I just started to write to him. Johnny, the kitchen sink has been clogged for days. Some utensil probably fell down there. And the Drano won't work, but smells dangerous. And the crusty dishes have piled up, waiting for the plumber I still haven't called. This is the everyday we spoke of. It's winter again. The sky is a deep, headstrong blue. And the sunlight pours through the open living room windows because the heat's on too high in here, and I can't turn it off. For weeks now, driving, or dropping a bag of groceries in the street, the bag breaking, I've been thinking, this is what the living do. And yesterday, hurrying along those wobbly bricks in the Cambridge sidewalk, spilling my coffee down my wrist and sleeve, I thought it again, and again later, when buying a hairbrush. This is it. Parking. Slamming the car door shut in the cold, what you called that yearning, what you finally gave up. We want the spring to come and the winter to pass. We want whoever to call or not call, a letter, a kiss. We want more and more and then more of it. But there are moments walking when I catch a glimpse of myself in the window glass, say the window of the corner video store, and I'm gripped by a cherishing so deep for my own blowing hair, chapped face, and unbuttoned coat that I'm speechless. I am living. I remember you. You know, I think that there's something that still isn't communicated in this poem, and it's that how we, when people we love die, they are now within us. And that is such a joy, isn't it? That we get to walk around with them within us. And that John being within me was a joy. So that when the speaker in this poem sees herself, she's cherishing herself because she can remember him quite literally within herself, and that love does not ever die. Love does not ever die. That is the one thing I do know. I'm on Oprah now. What's one thing you know for sure? Love does not ever die. It doesn't. And so that's what a lot happens in that. But the word that Lucy helped me with, this is what's so great. So some utensil must have fallen down there when the clogged kitchen sink. Originally I'd written some fork must have fallen down there. She said, you can't say fork. It's too funny. She said, fork's a funny word. You need a word that's like a fork, but not a fork. And then she went, utensil. And I'm like, utensil? And she goes, yeah, try it. Some utensil must have fallen down there. Not bad.
And she was
Lucy.
right.
Yeah.
So speaking of love, now we have to read after the movie,
Oh,
and
that's a funny one. What page is that?
that's on 104.
So the movie in question is The Talented Mr. Ripley. And it really should secretly be called After the Divorce. But I didn't want to mention that when I wrote this book. And we have to take a moment. Remember early Matt Damon, that film, The Talented Mr. Ripley? And Philip Seymour Hoffman was so great in it, who came from Rochester, New York, my hometown. And bless him. What a great, great, great artist. So after the movie, my friend Michael and I are walking home arguing about the movie. He says that he believes a person can love someone and still be able to murder that person. I say, no, that's not love. That's attachment. Michael says, no, that's love. You can love someone, then come to a day when you're forced to think it's him or me, think me, and kill him. I say, then it's not love anymore. Michael says, it was love up to then, though. I say, maybe we mean different things by the same word. Michael says, humans are complicated. Love can exist even in the murderous heart. I say that what he might mean by love is desire. Love is not a feeling, I say. And Michael says, then what is it? We're walking along West 16th Street, a clear, unclouded night, and I hear my voice repeating what I used to say and say and say to my husband. Love is action, I used to say to him. Simone Weil says that when you really love, you are able to look at someone you want to eat and not eat them. Janis Joplin says, take another little piece of my heart. Now, baby. Meister Eckhart says that as long as we love any image, we are doomed to live in purgatory. Michael and I stand on the corner of 6th Avenue saying goodnight. I can't drink enough of the tangerine spritzer I've just bought. Again and again, I bring the cold can to my mouth and suck the stuff from the hole the flip top made. What are you doing tomorrow? Michael says. But what I think he's really saying is, you are too strict, you are a nun. Then I think, do I love Michael enough to allow him to think these things of me, even if he's not thinking them? Above Manhattan, the moon wanes and the sky turns clearer and colder. Although the days after the solstice have started to lengthen, we both know the winter has only begun.
So one of the reasons why I wanted to read this poem, and there were a number of different ways into this question, and maybe this is a better one than what I had planned, because that brought in some recent events that I really didn't want to have to talk about. But I think of you, and I don't know if many other people think of you this way, but I think of you as a confrontational poet. And what I mean is you confront things, you confront grief, right? You confront this misunderstanding around love, right? You confront death, but you do it in a way that I would say is not performative. It's not a performative confrontation, even in that poem, right? You're not confronting the other to best them, right? You're confronting to make some peace, right? And I'm wondering, that kind of because in some ways, like, you know, there are aspects of your poems too that sort of remind me of O'Hara's personism, right? But I also think of O'Hara's personism as like somewhat performative. Like, I'm going to read so many of those poems before I like reach a saturation point. I'm like, all right, like, I get that you're being casual, but you're also a little full of yourself.
But also his system feels a little closed,
Yeah.
right? It feels like it's him and his friends.
Right.
But I hope it doesn't feel that way.
No. And I guess that's my question is, do you go into writing your poems seeking that, or is that something that you find along the way?
I don't know what I'm doing when I'm writing a poem. I don't. I feel like it's right in me. I mean it. I really don't know. I mean, again, this has started off like, you know, Michael and I are walking home after the movie, and we really, this was like practically verbatim what we actually said to each other. And you know, this whole notion, I was just separated from my husband. I was devastated. Like, what is going on? You know, like, so there was a way that the film, which is such an upsetting film, but and story, you know, was so unnerving, and that Michael was saying, you can love someone and still be able to kill them. I'm like, what? You know, but this was Michael Cunningham, the great writer and fiction writer, by the way, who wrote The Hours. I shouldn't ever have outed him. Never tell anybody. I shouldn't have done that. I just realized it. I'm sorry.
I told you we were recording, but
oh
we
my
can.
God. But Michael shows up in a couple of poems, and he goes, okay, I get it. So I believe in murdering people you love. And there's another poem, it's not in here, where we were bringing our friend Billy's ashes to be dispersed in Cape Cod. And one of the lines is, Michael is holding the vase of ashes when Billy said I could hold it. And so that he's like, I'm an ashes hog, and also, you know, I'm the person who is like willing to kill someone I love. So anyway, we have a joke. But you know, I love the way people actually talk. I love the way we all, you and I talking earlier, you know, I love the way talking with people is one of the great joys of life for me, and hearing back and forth, real talk, not, it took me so long to become an integrated person. I mean, as much as I am, I was so self-conscious. I was so, what's the word, disassociated so much of my life, that when I finally kind of came in and I could look out, I never wanted to perform anything in my whole life. I don't even know how to do it, because being here is so important. You know, actually being here, you know how it is. Like, when you're really there with somebody, it's the reason to be, it's the greatest joy about being alive. And even if it's difficult conversation, even if it's sad, even, it's still better to be here than to be performing being here. So poetry's never been that for me, never. It's just, it's a way through to try to get to the real. And even if it's recalling a conversation, it's happening again in a different way through the poem. Because again, the poem's using my stuff. It's not about my stuff. Who cares about what Michael and I said on the way home? What the poem is interested in, what is love? You know, and how much do we project on each other? I mean, I can't even summarize it because I don't know, but there's a lot, of course, in every poem that isn't even understood by it's not even, it's in the unconscious of the poem, if you will. It's not explicit. See, we've just driven somebody out of the room.
Oh, no.
No, we didn't. I'm always that person.
It's also getting a little warm.
It is warm.
Not just the conversation.
Oh.
If we can't edit that out, this might wind up being the event with the most YouTube views in history. We'll have to talk to the tech guys. So as a warm-up, I know I told you one of the things that we do in these conversations is talk through a poem. So we'll do that shortly, but maybe as a bit of a warm-up for that, to talk a bit about craft. I wanted to ask you, because that poem after the movie, it sort of flirts with the couplet.
Yeah.
A lot of the work in What the Living Do, that book, you know, you're heavily working with the couplets
Yeah.
at different line lengths, some short, some long. So I wanted to read one of those poems in couplets. I sort of give you a choice between practicing and What the Angels Left.
Whoa.
And
Two
then,
very different poems.
but both in couplets.
What the Angels Left is from the first book, The Good Thief.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay, well, good. So we can see it across the range of work.
I
But
don't.
then after that, I'm wondering if you could say a little bit about why the couplet was speaking to you at that
See,
time, and even going forward somewhat.
You guys, this is becoming like, look at y'all with your fans. We're in the South now. Should we turn this up?
Yeah, we can. If you want to turn it back on, that's okay.
Can we do that? Can we help? How do we do it? Marianne, thank you.
While you decide which of those poems you want to dip into.
I'll do What the Angels Left, because I don't read that hardly ever.
Okay.
This is after my father. Well, I won't even say anything about it. But I was very influenced by Whitman. I was very influenced by Robert Frost. I was very influenced by the Bible, and by the verses of what we call the Old Testament or the Torah, and very influenced by the parables of the New Testament. I love those stories that did not explain themselves, but they were just stories that Jesus told, and they were marvelous. So that was a big part of my education growing up, so to speak. What page do we have? What the Angels Left?
39.
Okay, thank you. So I love the reach of the long line, and the sentence, the sort of freighted sentence, that piled up on itself. Sorry. What the Angels Left. At first, the kitchen scissors seemed perfectly harmless. They lay on the kitchen table in the blue light. Then I began to notice them all over the house, at night in the pantry, or filling up bowls in the cellar where there should have been apples. They appeared under rugs, lumpy places where one would usually settle before the fire, or suddenly shining in the sink at the bottom of soupy water. Once I found a pair in the garden, stuck in turned dirt among the new bulbs, and one night, under my pillow, I felt something like a cool, long tooth and pulled them out to lie next to me in the dark. Soon after that, I began to collect them, filling boxes, old shopping bags, every suitcase I owned. I grew slightly uncomfortable when company came. What if someone noticed them when looking for forks or replacing dried dishes? I longed to throw them out. But how could I get rid of something that felt oddly like grace? It occurred to me finally that I was meant to use them, and I resisted a growing compulsion to cut my hair, although in moments of great distraction, I thought it was my eyes they wanted or my soft belly. Exhausted in winter, I laid them out on the lawn. The snow fell quite as usual, without any apparent hesitation or discomfort. In spring, as I expected, they were gone. In their place, a slight metallic smell, and the dear muddy earth.
And I guess that impulse to reach with the line, did that change over time? Because I noticed in the later poems and the new poems.
Yeah. Yeah, to me, a line is an utterance. There are a lot of people who don't believe in stopping at the end of lines, but it's like an utterance, and that there's a way that it sort of teaches you how to say it, So, but this poem was really interesting because I was working again on another few poems that weren't working out. And I was really kind of hammering them together. You're getting a theme here. Will does not make poems. It doesn't make poems. It doesn't make art. Will, at least for me, no, bang, 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 trying to get it, you know. And then suddenly, I'm not kidding, I felt another part of my brain open up. Did that ever happen to you? Where it's just pure image. It was so good. It felt like a drug. I mean, but a really good drug. And it was, because I wasn't in any way stoned, it was just like another thing opened, and then the whole thing just slid out. I mean, it was just, these scissors were everywhere, and the language for them, everything just came straight out. Has that ever happened to you, Kyle? It's amazing.
Yeah, well, I mean, we were talking about, some of my students are here talking about in class how it feels like the imagery just starts spilling out in that poem, and you just ride it until you get to the end. It's just so,
but then at the end, I was young still. I was beginning, and so I had lines that said what the poem was about. And Stanley Kunitz said, cut off the ending. And I had an aunt, my Aunt Peggy. She had 10 children, too. And all my mother's sisters had 9 or 10 kids. And my Aunt Peggy, I swear to her dying day, said to me, what was that poem about those scissors about? And I kept saying, I mean, I can tell you what I think, but I'm not going to tell you what I think, you know? I mean, it wasn't a mystery. It just was another way of talking about something that was sharp and frightening and hurtful that transformed.
What was Peggy's interpretation?
She didn't even tell me. I can see her through the screen door right now. Tell me what that poem is. She was just mad at it. That's what she was mad at it. But
it's a good thing when a poem can get you riled up.
Yeah, it's funny.
As long as they don't come after you.
Yeah,
they can come after the poem. So we're almost out of time. So let's get to the read along portion. And I think you all should have the poem Government, either somewhere.
That's cool. They actually have it.
They have it. Cool. So we can all, no excuses.
What? I wonder what page it is. Let me find it, because I don't have it.
113.
Okay.
And like I mentioned, after you're kind enough to read it.
Government. Standing next to my old friend, I sense that his soldiers have retreated. And mine, they're resting their guns on their shoulders, talking quietly. I'm hungry, one says. Cheeseburger, says another. And they all decide to go and find some dinner. But the next day, negotiating the 2 narrow aisles of the Health and Harmony food store, when I say, excuse me, to the woman with her cart of organic chicken and green grapes, she pulls the cart not quite far back enough for me to pass. And a small mob in me begins picking up the fruit to throw. So many kingdoms, and in each kingdom, so many people. The disinherited son, the corrupt counselor, the courtesan, the fool, and so many gods arguing among themselves over toast through the lunch salad and on into the long hours of the mild spring afternoon. I'm the god. No, I'm the god. No, I'm the god. I can hardly hear myself talking over their muttering. How can I discipline my army? They're exhausted and want more money. How can I disarm when my enemy seems so intent?
Thank you. So I wanted to start with the first line, and I know we talked about this a bit earlier, and you don't have to, but we've seen in a lot of your other work that you don't have a problem naming names.
I know.
So I was wondering why in this poem
I don't.
that yes.
Well, one of my closest friends for many, many years was the great poet Tony Hoagland. And I loved Tony, and he loved me, and we really helped each other with our work, really helped each other. We would send packets of poems back and forth all the time. And then we went through a period where it was just a difficult time in our friendship. But then I saw him somewhere, and we, when you've had a weird time with a friend, and then you're just sort of physically next to each other, a lot gets said that's not verbal. So I sensed his soldiers have retreated, and mine, well, they were leaning their rifles on their, then they all decided to go get something to eat. So it was nice, but it wasn't said. It was just felt. And but what, of course, I was really thinking about was how can I govern myself? All the people within me, all the judgments, all the characters within me, all all the selves within me. This seems to be our job growing up and becoming, into the people we want to be. And for some of us, it's harder than for others. For me, it was difficult. It's been difficult at times how to govern my own self. And I was thinking about government, which I'm sure is on our minds very much as we're here at the seat of our government right now, and the time is so extreme. How difficult it is to believe that governing oneself can actually help in any way. But was it Pascal who said, if every person, he said man, but I think he meant person, if every person could learn to sit alone and quietly in a room, all wars would end. I was thinking about a lot of that, and just thinking about how there's government, and then there's government, and then there's government, and then there's government, and then there's negotiations, and there's peace talks, and there's... So that was sort of, I guess that was sort of bubbling up in me. And because Tony is such a metaphor maker, and I'm not really, that's how it came out, in metaphor.
Yeah, I was going to say, because it's somewhat, there's a risk in opening immediately in the conceit.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's no reference to what's going on. We're just sort of in the metaphor of the soldiers.
Yeah, but don't you know right away if I said, so I saw my old friend, and right away I could sense his soldiers had retreated.
Yes, but also, I think sometimes men think of their soldiers in a different way.
Oh, my God.
And then, so just the language, I was like, where's this poem going? And then by the next line, I know where we are.
Did you all think of that? Did you think of that?
I'm not the only person in the entire world.
The soldiers have that's so funny. Oh, my Lord. But my soldiers, too. So there. Right? And this poem, at least, that's a riot. Oh, boy, I'm so dumb. That's so funny, Kyle. Okay, well, moving on.
Yes, moving on. So one of my a good friend, a local poet, who is no longer with us, Rita Kavazarani. One of the things that she would, say is that when you break a stanza, you usually do it under some kind of pressure, which is something I think about a lot. I don't always agree with, but I think about it when I'm writing. And I'm wondering, how you decided to pace this poem, right? Because there could be a version where it's just all one stanza.
Yeah,
right?
That's true. But again, it's like I really believe in pausing, in silence. It's because so a small mob in me begins picking up fruit to throw. So
you want that moment.
The speaker implicates herself finally, right? And then so many kingdoms. You're in the grocery store, you can't get down the aisle. There's a kingdom. You're a kingdom. There's a kingdom in front of her who's like looking at the beans too long, There's a lot of look at all the kingdoms here. Each of us is a kingdom, if you will, and within that kingdom there are so many people. So that I began to realize, just being at the grocery store, that that's a lot of what our conflict is, you know. Well, for me, at least, just I'm supposed to be the one who gets my way, you know. And so the hard time with a friend brings that into just daily intercourse, if you will, with everybody. But that's all thinking, and it didn't come out as thinking. It came out. I think it's funny, you know. I mean, so that in each kingdom, you know, there's a disinherited son and a corrupt counselor and a courtesan and a fool. I mean, Shakespeare said this a long time ago, you know. Shakespeare knows, too, just to start. No background, right? Just start. Ho, who goes there, right? Just right away, you just start. So that no backstory needed, really.
And when did you settle on the title, if you remember?
After, I think after, when I realized that this was the concern, and I wanted it to be a big word because of the small self, the big self, the collective self, the whole thing. But you're making it sound like I knew what I was doing, Kyle, and I do and I don't, you know.
Right. I mean, I don't think any of us know what we're doing, but I think we know we're trying, maybe.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm sort of like, I'm wondering what was the attempt, the try behind some of these.
But so much of it was they delighted me. Like, I love that the army was exhausted and wanted more money. I could see
cheeseburgers.
Huh?
And cheeseburgers.
Cheeseburger. And I love how people talk. I love the poems of Robert Frost. I love the poems of a lot of people who, you know, because you don't say, let's go get a cheeseburger. If someone says, I'm hungry, and the other person goes, cheeseburger, and you go, you know. And that I love that. I love that. I wish I could write plays. I really do. I think that plays and movies are such a great art form, and everybody goes to the movies, or at least now we stay home and watch movies. But that because there's dialogue, and it's so beautiful the way people talk to each other, and often they don't even know what they're saying, and they're talking about something else while they're talking about something else. And anyway, so I think that was sort of the energy it was all rolling on. And also, what's interesting to me about this poem is the speaker. Who is she talking to? She's talking to herself, you know.
Which is another confrontation. Like,
right. How can I disarm when my enemy seems so intent? It's hard.
I think that's definitely a question that we can end on for tonight as we're at 8 o'clock. So, Marie Howe, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you all. Reggie Harris, yes.